Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Israel Greatmind Joshua. In this session, we're jumping past the basic setup and diving straight into what I believe is the most important skill in all of cybersecurity. Seriously, we're going to learn how to look at a network not just like a regular user, but like a defender and an ethical hacker.
This right here, this was the very first lesson I ever learned, and it is the absolute foundation for everything else. You can forget about all the fancy, complex exploits for just a minute. Real security, it starts with just looking. Careful, methodical observation. Because think about it, if you can't see it, how are you ever going to defend it? The biggest difference between an amateur and a pro really comes down to this one thing: guessing versus enumerating. Amateurs, they just throw a bunch of random attacks at a wall, hoping something sticks. But professionals, we do a thorough walk around of the target first. We check every single digital door, every window, and every service before we even think about making a move. And today, you're going to learn how to do it the professional way.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. For this to work, you absolutely need your Kali Linux attacker machine and your Metasploitable 2 victim machine up and running. Now here's the critical part. You got to make sure they are both connected to the exact same host-only network in your virtualization software, like VirtualBox. This basically creates our own private digital lab where we can work safely without touching a real network.
Okay, first things first, let's just see if our two machines can even talk to each other. Pop open a terminal on your calling machine and just ping your Metasploitable 2's IP address. If you start seeing replies, awesome, you're golden. If not, do not panic. This is easily the most common hiccup people run into. It almost always means your virtual network settings aren't quite right. Just go into the settings for both of your VMs and double-check that they are attached to the exact same host-only adapter by name. That usually fixes it.
Okay, so once you've confirmed they can talk to each other, it is time for our first real scan. I want you to think of this Nmap command as our own personal reconnaissance drone. We're telling it to fly over the target, see what doors or ports are open, and then peek inside to see what services are running. And crucially, we're also telling it to save a nice, clean copy of the results. That's a vital step for any professional.
So let's quickly break down what those little flags actually do. That SV is for version detection. See, it's not enough to know a door is open. We need to know what's behind it. This flag tries to identify the specific software and its version number. Why? Because an outdated version of a service is often a wide-open invitation for an attacker. And ON? That just saves the output to a file. In the real world, you have to document everything. It's non-negotiable.
So, Nmap gave us a map of the open doors. That's the what. Now we're going to use a different tool called Enum for Linux to figure out the who and the how. We're going to focus on the SMB service, which is super common in corporate networks for file sharing. And trust me, if it's misconfigured, it is an absolute treasure trove of information for an attacker.
This command right here is our deep dive. That little A flag looks simple, but it's super powerful. It just tells Enum for Linux to run all of its possible checks. It's going to aggressively poke and prod that SMB service to pull out every single piece of information it can find. We're talking usernames, shared folder details, the whole shebang. It helps us build a much richer picture of our target. And this is the kind of stuff we can expect to find. We go from just knowing a port is open to, boom, potentially having a list of valid usernames, network names, and active file shares. Now, this is where a real attacker starts connecting the dots. A username you find here could be used in a password guessing attack against a totally different service you found with Nmap. You see, this is how an attack path begins.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the most important tip I can give you. Don't just run the command, see it finish, and move on. Stop. Pause. Read every single line of that output. The tools just generate data. The intelligence comes from your observation. That one little detail you spot, maybe an oddly named user or a shared folder called temp backups, that's often the key that unlocks the entire system.
So, we've had some fun in our little lab here. But now, let's connect these technical skills to the much bigger picture: real corporate cybersecurity. Believe it or not, the simple scan you just performed is a foundational skill that literally protects billion-dollar companies from massive threats.
See, this isn't just a good idea. It's written into a global security standard called ISO 27001, and its core principle is exactly what we're doing. That Nmap scan you just ran, well, that's the very first step in fulfilling this requirement. You must identify and maintain an inventory of all your assets before you can even begin to protect them.
You know what the biggest risk in a huge organization is? It's something called shadow IT. We're talking about servers that were set up for a project 5 years ago and then just forgotten, or old file shares that nobody uses but are still running. These unmanaged, unpatched systems are an absolute goldmine for attackers. Your scans are the first line of defense, finding these forgotten things before the bad guys do.
All right, for those of you who really want to understand what's happening under the hood, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. We're going to use a fantastic tool called Wireshark to watch the actual network packets that our scanning is sending in real time.
So, what you'll do is open up Wireshark and tell it to listen in on your virtual network. Start the capture, and then, in another window, run a quick Nmap scan. What you'll see is that Nmap isn't magic. It's actually just sending a storm of tiny digital hellos. You'll see packets called SYN, SYNAC, and ACK. That's the famous three-way TCP handshake. Nmap is just automating this process at an incredible speed to see which ports bother to say hello back.
And now, we get to what might be the most critical professional skill of them all, turning our technical findings into a clear, simple report. Let's be honest, raw scan data is basically useless if nobody can understand what it means. A good report is what gets things fixed. It's what gets security budgets approved.
You want to use a simple template, just like this one. For every finding, you document the IP address, the service you found, your observation, like anonymous login is allowed, and then, most importantly, the business risk. That final column is everything. It translates the technical jargon of SMB null session allowed into something a manager understands, like unauthorized users could access and maybe even delete sensitive company files. That gets action.
Okay, we've walked through all the tools, the commands, the theory, but you're only going to truly learn this stuff by doing it yourself. So it's time to put your hands on the keyboard. If you take only one single thing away from our session today, please let it be this. The time you invest right now in being methodical, in observing carefully, and in documenting everything, that is the single greatest advantage you can ever give yourself in this field. I promise you.
So now, it's your turn to be the investigator. Go ahead, pause this right now, run the scans in your own lab, and really dig through that output from Enum for Linux. What did you find? What unique details popped out at you? Every machine might be a little different, and it's your observation skills that are going to uncover those hidden gems.
Look, cybersecurity is a team sport. Don't try to learn this stuff in a bubble. Take a screenshot of the most interesting username or the weirdest share you found and post it in our community group. It is amazing what you can learn by comparing your results with what other people found on their systems. Make sure to join our WhatsApp group and follow the channel so we can keep this conversation going. In our next session, we're going to take these very skills and use them to start attacking web applications with a tool called Burp Suite. Thanks so much for joining me in the lab today. Now go on, keep enumerating.